Feels like something's changing in regards to what people are wanting from their spiritual teachers, leaders, and even gurus, if modern day. And what I feel like that is the winds of change that have been coming in for quite some time is this humanizing aspect of it. I've spoken about this before, but it really feels like it's in the zeitgeist. It's in the collective. And there's some interesting kind of dynamics that are going on right now, right? On one hand, there's this kind of spiritual adolescence taking place where quite a few kind of aspects of the collective, on the spiritual collective, are still wanting the authority figure, the one who knows, the one who's going to tell them what to do, you know. And there's still this, I think, predominantly still this outward leaning habit of wanting to look outside and for the modeling and the support, but deeper than that, for even almost without meaning to, abdicating one's authority and placing the projection of the idealized version of what awakening and realization is going to give you into a teacher's lap, a guru, if from, you know, maybe Indian guru or whatever, or some kind of master so-called. We don't know. And then, of course, with what takes place over time is that as we become more, we grow up and we become more sovereign, we want that power back. We want our own, what we've placed outside of ourselves, our idea of awakening and realization that you have it and I don't. And now it's starting to grow here inside of oneself. And then we say, I'm taking that back. And there's oftentimes a bit of an immature kind of movement that takes place where I'm going to topple you or I'm going to push you away, sort of an adolescent move, you know? Not always, but quite often. And I participated in that in my own way with my teachers without them knowing it per se, but I had to grow up. We grow up, okay? And I feel like what's happening is we may be growing up. And there have been some major teacher players, I'm not going to name, who have fallen, and from whatever hierarchy they imagined, and other people imagined that they were, you know, who they were, have fallen. And so I can feel it, and I can tell also on the social media that there's this movement taking place of wanting to basically throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is all teachers are shysters, and we need to. Well, actually, nothing's being said about what needs to happen, what needs to happen instead, besides turning to oneself. But the fact is, the truth is that not all teachers are shysters, and not even all gurus, you know. But unfortunately, there's been a predominant amount of um, well, it's just falsehood. And I think people are kind of having had enough. You know, it's kind of like the scales have been tipped. So I think there wants to be a rewriting of what's possible. And maybe conversations would be nice to have, you know, in terms of like what is the right way to support students, people who are wanting to wake up, from those who have had different types and to whatever degree realizations, and how much of the human being portion is wanting to come into play for the student and for the one who's sharing. What is really even useful in terms of peering behind the curtain, you know? So I think it's a very delicate, fragile thing. And the reason being is because let's be honest, how much of a spiritual teacher's dirty laundry or even what they're working on in themselves is useful to you in terms of your own awakening? Yeah, it can provide entertainment. Their drama is entertainment, right? And sure, we want to know if someone is kind of walking their talk. I get it. I agree. I wanted models that were as pure as possible in their kind of intention. But the truth is, I don't know what their lives are like behind the scenes. I don't know. And as a student, an eternal student, I am. Um, what I really want from those who I'm learning from, and and perhaps what you want from your teachers is good teachings and and maybe some honesty. Like I'm still working on some areas of my life. It's not all perfect. I'm not going to give a false front of purity and pretend that I'm beyond it all as a and also just sort of including the human being aspect. The human being part is so important, the human part, but without watering down the message. Because if one is focused on, oh, I had a argument with my wife this morning, and we're working out something with my children and our children, and we had some disagreements, and let's say you went to receive some understanding about how, awakening, realization. And that might be sort of entertaining for a minute and might even make one wonder, well, what happened and what does awakening look like there? But but that's kind of like a red herring. Is that really the food that one needs? Or is the good nourishment like, yeah, I have some human being stuff still going on. I'm refining. Now and then I can still get caught here and there, but awakening doesn't go anywhere. Like that kind of truth, more just sort of to where we don't like get fascinated, with the drama. And then, but this is the way that realization is, you know, you can lean in and this might help you realize your true nature in this way and answer some questions in a way that's useful and helpful, meeting you where you are. I For me, that's more that would be sort of a balanced way, instead of imagining that everything has to be sort of rewritten. And I'm not saying you're feeling this way, but it's sort of kind of out there right now. Um, Sort of wanting to topple all authority figures, and I get it. But the thing is we're the ones that make that person or that being, whatever you want to call them, an authority figure. And some of them do want to be, let's be honest, some of them are narcissistic and hide it really well. They want followers. They want to amass students. Um, Power, they get off on the power. And then also they might be dallying with students, and cheating on their wives and husbands or whatever it is, and doing things that are just not okay and egregious. It's happening right now. And it's happening right under people's noses who just put these teachers on pedestals. And so there's sort of an education, I think, that we're needing to raise the bar and educate ourselves about how to be intelligent seekers and maybe what is appropriate to ask of the teachers or look for. How about that? Look for, because people should do what they're gonna do, teachers, as long as, you know, they're not harming. They're either going to be honest about what's taking place in their lives or not. Not everybody is transparent, right? And there's also sort of like this, I was going to say sliding scale. sort of a scale of more honest and more hidden, Um, the projections, teachers have gotten into that as well. They've gotten buried by their own, by taking in the projections and idealization. So it's a two-part kind of Leela, a game that I think that's the part that wants to wake up and change and shift is that students become educated as to what you really want and what you're looking for, and also realize that and also realize that a lot of projections are being placed outside of oneself onto the teacher or whomever because we are looking for that, we're trying to fulfill our own beliefs about what realization is going to give. And if there's a lot of misunderstanding about being all the way pure and the human being part goes away or suffering goes away all the way, and there's so many misunderstandings about awakening that have to be seen through. So these projections are being placed outside of oneself and to the lap of the one you're projecting on. And then from the teacher point of view, there is an education that might want to take place in terms of not of being honest about that. Like, don't project onto me, it's going to happen anyway, but I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm not perfect. And but I do have some tools or some ideas of what could help you realize because this is how what worked for me, kind of thing. And so, I think that's like this period of growing up rather than like throwing the baby out with the bathwater and throwing everything up overboard or just giving one's power away. I think we're in a time of transformation of growing up out of maybe adolescence spiritually as a collective. And what do adolescents do? They rebel. So I'm all about balance and harmony is kind of like harmony in terms of finding balance and living in a balanced way while speaking truth. And so that's why I'm more in the camp of don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. At the same time, really, I'm all about transformation and evolution and change, you know, as long as it's useful and helpful in the end. Freeing the teacher of the projections from the on the part of the student and just taking accountability and responsibility for that. And the student freeing themselves of believing that it's outside of themselves. And also maybe all of us getting growing up and getting better educated about how the our humanity gets integrated into all this. And it's not apart from it. I speak about that a lot about embodiment and all that stuff. It's a part of it, and that's part of the refining process. And don't we all just want to be free, free of the projections, both ways, free of being authentic, to be authentic, free to maybe share what it is that we know and have learned, and have that be something that is hopefully useful, and free to continue growing is my wish and hope for us all. And I'm not saying at all that all teachers are on board with this. And in fact, you have to find out for yourself who it is you're attracted to and what it is that they're getting out of being kind of removed. And um yeah, just be discerning, okay? Be discerning. But at the same time, one more thing is going over into the camp of just all diving into the human being part without the being part, just the human part, right? To me is also imbalanced, right? The transcendent being lost in the transcendent and being lost in the human being part are not in balance. And that's why I often say about the two wings of the bird, which you're probably tired of hearing for those who listen to my videos. One wing is the human part, you know, and the other one is the being part. And that's the transcendent and the immanent, here. And we need both emptiness and form to fly properly, and so leaning too far over into the human being is so easy to get lost there. I mean, that's the whole point of wanting to become free and realize what we truly are. But then it's like what living that is then the human and the being part, living it, what one has discovered, right? So some teachers out there are really pushing right now, just dive into your humanity and feel your anger and feel your sadness and with and just having left behind the other wing, which is what helps us not get lost, the being part. So there's a balance here, there's a balance. Take care, take good care, enjoy. We're creators. We're creating here. We can create something good even in our spiritual world here. We can ask more of one another and from ourselves even. And with love and kindness and understanding, for both sides, understanding. Wouldn't that be nice? Take good care.